Hi there, today's video is about making Swiss or Dutch arrows, or is it Dutch and Swiss arrows? It's that out, and that was exactly 30 metres, that one, with a tipped Swiss or Dutch arrow. As well as the Dutch arrows, I'm going to be mentioning edentums, pilums, atlatls, flus and all sorts of other stuff. Very easy project to make and not very expensive. Now you can use forage wood or you can use shop bought wood, and I normally use Dowling as a wood of choice, and this is 1.2 centimetres in diameter and it comes in 240 centimetre lengths, and as I cut them to 60 centimetres that means I can get 4 from each length. You can also do it with thicker stuff like this, and also you can put a divot in the end to use an atlatl with it, which I'll cover a bit later on. Now when it comes to the fletchings, you can do whatever style you like, but normally just putting 2 feathers back to back like that's adequate, or you can do a proper fletching like that, which is obviously a little bit more complicated. And it doesn't even have to be natural stuff, you can also make yourself ones like this. Very easy to do. And then also you can do weighted or unweighted ones like this. This is just a little bit of blue tack or plasticine, but you can use metal and all sorts of attachments on the end, but obviously you've got to be careful because you turn them into real projectiles then. Okay, let's get making one. This is your standard cut here that you're going to be launching these things with. This is basically made by putting the blade down small cuts and then at a diagonal angle like that, but you'll see more of that later. This is a slightly fancy one called a beak notch, and if you look at this link here it'll tell you how to make one. This is just a piece of hazel that I've harvested instead of using this dowling. That is just the shaved end on an unweighted one, just to give it a bit more aerodynamic profile. And that there is a knock. You can also launch these from the back. You can also use a divot as well to use a small atlatl tool. When it comes to the flights, you can use something posh like this buzzard feather, or for this first example I'm just going to use some foraged Canada goose feathers that I found here. As you can see here, I've trimmed the 2 feathers up, I've left a little tail at that end, and here I've taken a little angle piece off to make it like a quill so it sits flush. And all I'm going to do with this is sellotape it on. And there we go, a few minutes to make your basic Dutch arrow. So, starting from this end, that's the chamfered end there. That's the launching bit just there, and that's at a right angle to the 2 parallel flights that we've sellotaped on. Now, I'm not setting myself up as any kind of expert fletcher here, but what I do is cut the feathers in a very similar style to before, hold them on with an elastic band, then either use PVA underneath there to stick them down, or something like this is pine pitch glue. This is a very good quality one from a guy called Paul Guys who runs Delta Bushcraft in Germany. This is line bast cordage that I'm using here. And there we go, there's your second one. And just sealed the ends, like I said, where I've tied it off with the pitch, and that's good to go. There's your notch, right angle to the flights again. Now if you straighten the stick over a fire this will happen, but what I've used to get this effect artificially, if you like, is one of these guns that you use to melt paint when you're doing decorating. Make sure you do it before you put any fletchings on. I've got some legs that I scavenged off an old garden chair, and what I'm going to do is make myself a metal one, and see the length's just right there. So I've cut 2 of the metal legs out. One of them is going to have a stopper on each end to look rather smart, and this one is going to have a stopper on one end and then a divot at the end so I can launch it like a little mini atlatl. Now what I'm going to do with the end here is put some screws in, use some 2-part glue to hold them in place, and then cap them off. Now the idea is it's going to be a bit like a Roman pilum. There's 2 trains of thought with the extra weight they used to put at the front of that. One was to give it more velocity, and the other one was that it would go up and the weight would then pull it down into a dive. Now I'm just putting the weight in mainly for the velocity, but I will obviously try some high shots with this and see what happens. There we go, an old milk carton. That little bit there will do nicely for a fletching. Plastic one finished with a little gap to put the top on. This is just 2-part glue with charcoal squeezed into it to make it look like modern pine pitch. Just making some plastic fletchings with little ends that I can tape them on and fix thusly. And then I've just countersunk that with a countersinking drill bit. You can also make a flu flight like this, which is a time for a retarded arrow that doesn't go too far or fast. Just a small selection of the darts that I'll be taking out to throw, and you'll notice here I've got a wooden one and a metal one. This one actually looks like an RAF missile from sort of 1970s, but what I've done, I've put 2 whistles on, which you normally associate with arrows, but I thought I'd give them a go on the actual darts themselves. So paracord is your friend when it comes to the cordage you need to launch these darts, and normally you'll need a piece about the same length as your dart. So my 60cm ones have this 60cm piece of cordage. You need to tie something like a overhand in the one end, and that's it. Right, let's go through how to throw one of these. Now, there is a Greek javelin called an adentum that had like a fixed loop on it like this, which was wound round like this and launched from the fingers, and that obviously stayed on there as it went. These sort of remind me of that. There's not a lot of evidence on the interweb that I can find that they were used in anger. There may be some usage for hunting birds and things like that, but the way you use one of these is with the groove there. You put the knot in like that, and the cordage goes behind the shaft and over the knot to make it tight, and then you can either wind it round the shaft like this, like the adentum that I mentioned, but I don't find that actually works particularly well. What I normally do is put the knot in, just come over the top of it and just hold the shaft like this, and then this stuff, if there's enough, you can wrap it around your hand as well. Let me just show you a little close-up of that. The knot sits in the top of the notch there like that. I'm going to hold my finger there, and you take the cordage over the top and then make sure that the knot is trapped as the cordage comes over like that, and it's down the shaft, and then you hold it there wrapped around your hand or not as the mood takes you. So this is how you throw one, like that. What I'll do now is do a little bit in slow motion so you can see it released. This is the lazy way with it, just along the length. Here's the wraparound method, which you can see on the darkened wood and the high-vis paracord there. This is a proper atlatl launcher like this. Got the pin in the end, in the concave end, and then here this has also got a resting point as well, so you can hold it very easily one-handed. I've also put a little notch in for string as well, and obviously you need a longer bit for this, but this will be coming in the atlatl video. This is basically how you launch them. You can also load into the little nock at the end like that and launch it sort of like a cordage atlatl if you like, but it's not a favoured method of mine. Yeah, it's alright. I'm going to just for show and tell in the making of them, but this is the flu. Yeah, you can tell how retarded that is. It really does fly in a very slow sort of, not very exciting sort of way, but it does spin, so that's a bonus. And this is the front loaded metal one, so I'm going to chuck this high up and see if it comes down like a dart. Oh yes, that worked. It's stuck in the ground. This is my 1970s RAF air-to-air missile with the whistle on the end. Saw this in the Pitt Rivers Museum in the UK. I think it was a Chinese emperor where his soldiers would come along and fire these whistling arrows so that people knew to avert their gaze from him because of his godlike status. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to throw it into a slight wind here, so you may hear something and hear me go wow, or I might just go oh. Well, that was the flights making a noise on that one. So what I've done, I've emptied a lot of the mass out of it, because I've put some in just to give it some oomph going forward, so I'll see if that helps. No. Right, so the metal one with the whistle on didn't work so well. Let's try the bigger one. Again, I've got the slightly longer string on here with the notch, but also I can throw it with the atlatl with the dimple in the end as well. So let's see. Yes, and I got the satisfaction of it whistling and sticking in the ground. You're never going to get one of these to sound like the Arrow version, because they obviously go a lot quicker and they sound like a cross between a noisy firework and those long balloons you blow up and let go and they squeal at parties. So what I'll do, I'll just try winding this one up again. Yeah, again, slight whistle, but to me, that's good enough. Anyway, our final go, and I'll try it with the wrap round just for good luck. Because the other thing you have to remember with these as well, you have to keep cleaning the dirt out the ends once they hit the ground. Yeah, getting fair to middling.